Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you. Hopefully, you all enjoyed your extended holiday weekend with the family. The market was closed on Friday. We did have some data on Thursday, so we'll take a look at that in the little GameStop option flow report, and we'll just jump into the business right now, into the data. If we look on Thursday, before we wrapped up last week, we had about 2 million in net premium and call premium. It kind of spiked into the close there for the April expiry, which was April 17th, into about the $2 million range. Put premium kind of remained flat there on GameStop. And over the last week or so, the net premiums kind of tapered off a little bit. We did see, a decline last week in that net call premium, and then a little bit of a surge again there on Thursday. It was propagated by the surge we saw the week before. So we'll take a look at some of that option flow that came in from Thursday. Some of that higher volume is going to be the things that were expiring on Thursday. But we'll take a look at what carried over into open interest. We'll see what was traded. Let's take a look here. The $30 calls for this week saw volume last week. $27 calls for this week's, for this week also saw some activity. We'll take a look at that. And those $32 calls, we talked about that last week. We saw those again. I had posted, hey, those. We saw traders come into those. We saw a trader potentially close some of those. I would say they entered them here, and then closed some out, and then looks like maybe just reappeared, did a reload when the price came down. So we did see some of that volume on Thursday, about 700,000 in total premium, 6,000 volume, a little bit more than that on the $32 calls for May, and about 4,500 appeared new open interest. And if you note here, the ask volume was about 4,800 on Thursday, so it certainly covers those positions assumed being bought to open, and the $32 call buyer has arrived again on May. So a little bit of a volatility play. The $30 calls also for May 16th saw a little bit of activity. On Friday, about 850,000, or pardon me, Thursday, 850,000 total premium. So you did see about 6,000 in volume, and about a third of that carried over in new open interest. So open interest has grown a little bit to 22,552. We had some pretty decent fills come through here. A little bit more ask volume than bid volume on Thursday, suggesting a little bit more buying than selling in that regard. So open interest did increase. The IV had come down up just a few points. So it might have offered a potential entry there. So we look at like the history on the $30 calls for May. They're starting to move up in value from where they were earlier in April. So prices moved up a little bit, and we're getting closer to the expiry there. So we'll take a look at some of the other ones as well. But to wrap up there on Thursday, like I said, was the 2 mil net premium and volatility 76%. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to check that here. And then total premium for the day, still pretty light. It's been light the last few days. So it's 28 million on Thursday. So we'll take a look at where the bulk of that premium was spent then on Thursday. Pull up some of our trusty GameStop flow here. So remove some of my filters. I was looking at some data last week. Let's see, I'll just reset my filters real quick. And you can do always a ton of filters there on unusual whales. So we're going to go ahead and get our GameStop pulled up here real quick. I'll take a look here. Oh, I was in the flow feed. I apologize there. I wonder why it didn't look right, even to me sometimes. All right, we'll go to the April 17th. So we'll take a look here. I usually sort it for, premium from highest to largest. So the bulk of the premium spent on any option contracts are always going to be in the top part of this page, and then the lesser amount of is going to be at the bottom. So I try to look for things 500,000 premium and higher. So let's see, the April 17th was already expired. The 32s we talked about for May. 30s for June saw a little bit of activity. Seeing some more of those $10 in the money calls, deep in the monies for January. We've been talking about that through the videos. And then the 30s for May 16th saw the highest amount. So if you want to pause or screenshot here so you can see, which are the highest calls, that came through, or puts in this regard. Let's see, $26 puts, about $210,000 in premium. Those do expire this week. So I did note here there was some volume Friday, and we did see someone come in here, about 100,000 of them. came across on the ask side, and we did see the open interest increase. So trader could be hedging some of the position with $26 puts. Trader may feel that GameStop will close below, so they're trying to make a play in that regard. But there's been a little bit of activity on the 26 puts, but also these could be hedges as well, for others for underlying stock as well. So let's take a look here, just so you can see kind of the history on those $10 calls. We talked about the last few days, seeing some more activity, just a little bit more. These are deep in the money. So how that works is, for example, the premium is $17.29. It's a $10 strike. If you add the two, is roughly $27.29, which is actually higher than the current trading share price. So, for example, let's say I were to sell a $10 covered call. I would sell the $10 call, receive $1,729 in premium, or we'll just call it $17.29. More than likely, a shares probably be assigned. It's deep in the money, so then 100 shares would be sold at $10 each. So that 10 plus the 17.29 is your current share price. So contracts are always priced. If they're in the money, it's going to be however much it's in the money. That is the price of the contract. And this does have some time behind it. These don't expire till January. The IV is at 100%. For example, if you were short the stock, you could cover it through the option chain as well. If you want to take a long position through the stock, you could do that as well with deep in the money. There's just a couple different ways you could go about this. So that's why you're seeing some of that activity. Let's see here on those. About 700,000. Like I said, the premium's kind of been there the last couple days, but they're deep in the money, so it could be a more complex strategy in that regard. We see what we see, but we don't see that specific trader's portfolio. It makes it a little bit harder to kind of dive into that in that regard. Did see some of the 30s as well for January up here, kind of mixed there. Let's zoom out on our time. Yeah, there was some volume on Thursday, about 500,000 premium, but open interest only went up by 5. So contracts more than likely changed hands in that regard. But that's what I saw on that. So let's take a look at what actually came across though from Thursday's transactions. Let's take a look at like a fresh slate, an open interest update for this morning to get you going before you jump into your work day, your work week, whatever you got going on this morning. Let's see here. So we're going to pull up our largest changes to open interest this morning on GameStop. We'll see what were the biggest, because I didn't see a lot carry over here. Those are our decreases there. Hang on just a second. See, the largest ones were the 28.5 calls for this week, 30 calls for this week, 32. I'll let you look at the OI. Not a lot of big changes in that regard. The 2850s though for this week saw pretty wild there in that regard. The chain had been quiet, only 875 open interest, but Thursday about 6,200 volume, 325,000 total premium. A lot of that hit the bid side though, filled closer to the bid, so it's denoted as bid, more than likely selling. This trader may felt that GameStop would close below 28.50 this week, so therefore they decided to sell covered calls in an attempt to collect some option premium. So, for example, let's say you had 100 shares at GameStop. You're like, yeah, I like GameStop at 28, but I don't think it'll close above 28.5. So, for example, you could deploy a covered call strategy, sell one call. You would receive $53 in premium. Now, if GameStop, as long as GameStop closed below 28.50, your calls wouldn't be in the money. That option would expire worthless. You keep your premium. Even if it expired at 28.50, I think it'd be worth $1 or zero. So, or 28.49 in that regard. So it would still be out of the money. Now these did move down in price from the open at 53, and then maybe somebody sold some more at 46 to get a good fill. You never know. Somebody could have bought these back from somebody as well in that regard. There's been kind of a little bit of selling on this particular chain, which is a newer one. It started April 14th. So if we zoom out some of that activity, we can look at how that's kind of played out there. Let's see, that was Thursday's flow in the morning, and then Thursday in the afternoon. So let's see here. Some of that was multi-leg, so these trades actually could be connected to something else, and we can see that here with multi. So while I said, hey, there's selling here, but let's take a look at it. Because according to Unusual Whales, with the multi-leg, there's probably more to the transaction. And that's what we like to talk about during the videos, to show you a lot of these trades aren't single leg trades. They are strategies They are hedges. They are connected to other trades. And when you use a powerful platform like Unusual Whales, we get all the option flow in real time. We get every bit, whether it's single contract, 26 contracts, each order. Other flow services just kind of combine orders and show, hey, they were filling 2850s and just flash this. They're not showing you line by line each individual order. And that's important, especially when you're trying to paint a picture. Because unless you're that trader, you don't know specifically what their intentions are. So let's take a look at that. We can see the larger 3,000 roughly size denoted as a multi-leg trade. Okay, so they're running a little bit of a strategy here. I like what they're doing. So in essence, what they're doing here, they sold 2850 calls and they bought, let's see, $23 puts. So, and $22 puts. Yeah. So here's what they did. They bought the 2850 calls, or pardon me, sold. There's quite a few going here. Bought, sold. Okay, so it looks like sold their 2850s last week, had 2850s for last week, but sold the 2850s for this week. So it looked like a spread there, and then hedged out with these $22 and $23 puts, multiple expiry last week and this week. So they're running a little bit of a strategy in that regard. And the aggregated volume is here, you can see. So basically anything on the bid they received as credit, and then anything on the ask they purchased. So let's see, you can look at their premiums here. So yeah, a little bit of a strategy there. Always good to look at, because most of those, let's see, 2850s. Last week, a lot of multi-leg. Because yeah, the traders closing out April expiry and rolling out to this week. Yeah, so that's what we saw there in that regard. So it's good to see that. Yeah, there's sure some 2850s, but this particular trader was definitely running a strategy as denoted there in Unusual Whales. So it's good to look at that. Very important. Always good to look at it. And the market is already open this morning, so now my data is going to get skewed for the video, but that's okay because I wanted to cover the flow, the open interest changes. I wanted to look at that daily chart before we got today's candle, but we looked at Thursday, high of 27.19. Low of 26.17, close what, 26.82. Still well above all your EMAs. I like seeing these shorter EMAs cross over the longer. So take a look on your left corner of your screen. Those are your daily moving averages for your 9 EMA, 21 EMA, a 50-day SMA, and a 200. So take a look at those. Always keep those in mind. As stocks move back down, sometimes they try to find those moving averages. Price has a memory. Also, friendly reminder, the Unusual Whales sale does end tomorrow evening. So if you're looking to get Unusual Whales, use my link, get yourself a nice discount. And if you already have Unusual Whales, you can upgrade to annual, and they'll give you another nice discount for that. We will mention the SOFI $13 calls. We saw everybody is going to be talking about them. More than like an earnings play, volatility, or a hedge against common shares. But the SOFI $13 calls for May 16th last week saw 100,000 volume, 80,000 appeared, more than 80,000 appeared new open interest. In fact, most of that transaction was the net premium for Thursday. In addition to, we saw $12 calls for SOFI for this week appear last week as well. So I'm not sure. SOFI, like I said, has got earnings coming up on April 29th. Their outlook for 2025 looked good last year. So it's not a buy or sell recommendation, but I'm looking at it. We're definitely watching, watch the contracts, etc. SoFi, it looked like a good entry this morning around $10, 1060, 1080. It's back over 11. So more than likely those calls have already moved up from Friday. I'm actually going to pull those up right now. So we saw those coming in. They're around 30 and 38 and 40 cents. So I think they've already gone. Let's see here. Let me pull them up real quick when we do it. Yeah, the $13 calls for SoFi for May 2nd. Or pardon me, that's the ones I was actually looking at. Oh, I just told you my secret. The 13th for May 16th are up 4 points, up 7 points today. And let's see those $12 calls for this week on SoFi as well. Take a look, very short dated. Be very careful there, as you should. especially with a lot of people talking about it now because we're all posting about the flow. $12 calls for this week are flat from Thursday's entry, but the 13s for May are up 5 points. So, like I said, the open interest is there. We'll follow. I wouldn't necessarily jump on the trade. If you pull up that SOFI daily chart, you may find a more appropriate level to possibly enter if that's something you're interested in or you want to tail this. I know a lot of people are. You may find a lower level. I'm not sure. The stock, though, is sitting on, for those that are interested, the stock is sitting right on its 9-day EMA at 1090. So it's recovered the 9-day EMA. You've got your 200 EMA just in shy, out of sight at 1150. The the 21 EMA at 1131 with your 50-day all the way up here. So, I mean, the stock's been there before. So, yeah, it could be making a move back up. RSI reset, like the rest of the things with the market, and now a nice push back up. Higher high today already than Thursday. So, that might be the thesis. Follow closely. I talk about a lot of different things, but I'm not going to lay it out exactly for you. I'll help you fish, but I'm not going to cast your. I'm not going to cast your reel though. But I'll help you load the bait. But yeah, so yeah, it was something interesting on SOFA. I know a lot of people are going to be talking about it. It's a stock that's got a lot of retail sentiment and interest behind it. So definitely something we'll be watching into that as well. We saw those debit call spread or call debit spread last week also on DJT. I know it's seen a lot of activity. So yeah, that's what I got for you today. So there you go, SoFi 1105. It's a little bit of a move from the flow on Thursday because the low Thursday was 1059. That was kind of, if I was going to come in, I would be looking at anything lower, but now it might be too late in that regard because the news is out, the play is out. Someone's aired the business. And like I said, take it with a grain of salt because it could also be a hedge. So, yeah. Let's pull up that GameStop one last time as we wrap up here. 26.79. We pushed 27. Yeah, 27.04. And we'll give you just a real-time look at that flow. It won't be a lot because the market had just opened this morning on GME. And we'll get you going on your Monday. I'm very excited this week. It is my son's birthday. We will be going to the Accountant 2 on IMAX. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. It's going to be great. So let's see, net call premium up about 220,000 so far this morning. Stock 2674. But yes, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully they're educational too. If you watched it all the way through, you're awesome. Why don't you just reply down below? GameStop. Simply GameStop. I know you watched today's video all the way through. But I hope you have a fabulous Monday. And let's kick it off strong. Let's get it going. Let's make sure we're following our rules. Let's preserve that capital. Let's observe proper risk management. Let's have some fun out there. Happy trading to everybody. Happy Monday and welcome back from the holiday.